Good morning, good day, good night, good evening, wherever you are on the planet, whatever time zone. Here I am in the great state of Louisiana. It is November 30th, 2016. And Pam and I are here for a while because we came down to help out our mom, who ain't getting any younger like the rest of us. But anyway, so we'll probably be here for a couple of months. And we are not in Utah anymore, Toto. It's really different, and that's great. My father's family's from Louisiana, so I do have some history here. But it's been, just different culture, different place, a lot of different things going on than where I live in Utah. Food's really good. I mean, you can get junky food, but man, they know how to cook down here. So that's been fun, and have a really great gym, a club that I'm going to, which is nice. We don't, Wayne County where we live is pretty, unsophisticated in that regard. So when I go to have to spend time in a new place, I always try to benefit, just enjoy the things I can enjoy there. And we don't have the wide open spaces of the wilderness, but it ain't bad. It ain't bad. A big yard, about 3 or 4 acres here, and then I take Lucy down to the Ouachita River every morning, and there's a park there that has a road that runs along the river, so I take her down for about 1.5 miles. So just as I'm always harping on the fact that human beings need exercise, well, our animals do too. And I think, especially for big dogs, just taking them on walks with the leash is just not enough. They need to get out there and kick out the jams and really get great exercise. And Lucy, God, we don't even know how old she is. She's well over 10 years old, and she's in great shape. And she's so full of energy. And of course, she's treated really well, but she gets really significant, great exercise every day. And that's just one of the key things for being happy and being vital. And just as you need physical exercise for your body, which is in integral speak, we talk about that being the exterior, your physical body, and then your interior is your inner life, and you also need to do that. And that's what iAwake does. We one of the things we do anyway, we've developed the tools and the technology to help almost all of us have a vital, deep, transformative interior practice, which is fantastic, because it's really hard. It takes a lot of work, and especially if you're doing it in more traditional ways, it could take years and years. And that's probably explains why not that many people really have been doing an extended meditation practice, putting in the time that you need to accomplish the things that meditation will accomplish, which I'll talk about in a minute. It's just too slow, and it's not effective enough for most of us. So with iAwake, you still got to work. You still have to put in the time, but you will get there in much quicker. And I was talking to Bill Harris, the friend and the founder of Holosync. And hello, somebody's. Anyway, if you're not,
been the only day you could do it.
Okay, we're getting a little interference. If you're not, talking with me or being part of the broadcast, make sure you have your microphone off, because we'll get the background noise. Anyway, and Bill was saying that he thinks that probably, and he didn't do studies on it, but just from intuitive, that it's about, it speeds up the process about 8 times faster than, that's with Holosync. And of course, we think that iAwake is even more powerful and more evolved technology than Holosync. Sorry, let me turn this thing off. And so, 8 times, 10 times, whatever it is, that's incredible if you're just willing to put the time. And I think that you probably should put about as much time in on your interior practice every day as you do on your exercise. Okay. So if you meditate for an hour a day, you probably should exercise an hour a day. You say, oh my God, yeah, but that's a lot of time, 2 hours, and I've got a really busy life. Well, most of us have a busy life. but it's, yeah, that's what it takes to achieve greatness. You know, you have to put in the time. You can't say I'm going to compete, you know, in the Olympics in whatever area you choose, but I just don't have time to practice. I'm just gonna, uh, you know, rely on dumb luck or something, or genetics. That's not gonna do it. So yeah, you got to put in the time. And I was reading a very interesting book. I've been working on it for a while, but it's Ken Wilber's latest, and it is called Integral Meditation. And says mindfulness is a path to grow up, wake up, and show up. Okay. And you might say, grow up, wake up, clean up, and show up, because we really have to work through our stuff too. And, you know, one of the things that I talk about a lot are these stages of moral development that have been very well documented by developmental psychologists, and are just key to kind of understanding the whole dance of the human family. And if you look at the U.S. elections, and you understand the different developmental levels that see things completely differently, you know, and you will see the world, you will see a different world according to what your current stage of development is. And you'll be perplexed that other people aren't seeing the obvious thing that you can see at your current level of development. So they must be completely wrong. So therefore they are the enemy, and we can fight it out with them. So, and that is characteristic of what in developmental psychology and integral think we talk about as first tier developmental levels. There's this saying that each level has its own worldview that's very, very different from the other, and each level thinks its worldview is absolutely right, and the other people are absolutely wrong. And so hence you have the cultural wars and the division, and just this you know, I mean, things that are going on in Congress that nobody can agree to anything, and it's just chaos. And who knows if you know, a democracy can survive under such radical conditions, because not only do you have those issues with different developmental levels, but there are parties that are actually exploiting that and making it worse than it naturally would be. So instead of just kind of tolerating each other and respecting each other, getting along, actually, you know, great conflict. But yeah, but anyway, I was reading the book today, and Ken says that these levels, or these stages of moral development, pretty much occur. They will just happen, okay, given time, because that's just the way the brain and the human being has evolved. So you'll see these levels of development. You can trace them historically when they came online, and you can trace them in your own life as you go through these major developmental shifts, and your values change. He said, however, those are the stages of growing up psychologically. He says, however, there are stages of waking up, which deals with spiritual development. And it goes through stages of identification with the gross realm, physical realm, you know, the subtle realm, the areas that we reach in our sleep. And then you have the causal realms, which is where the witness really develops. And then you have the kind of the last stages of really waking up spiritually, according to a lot of the different spiritual traditions, both East and West, which use different language, but basically describe the same thing. And then you have the witness self that develops, okay? And that's where you just consciousness just witnesses everything that arises from moment to moment in this big, spacious, almost infinite vastness of pure awareness. And then beyond that, you know, you're still witnessing. There's still the witness, and then there's still the objects of consciousness. But at the final stages, you move into this non-dual stage where you have where the witness and the objects that are being witnessed, all of a sudden they are no other. They are the same thing. Form and was it Nargajan that said? He said, form and emptiness are the same. There is no difference. It is all the same. And that's a kind of final realization that there is only one thing here. And there's not consciousness and things. The things are nothing other than consciousness manifest. And that's when you get into non-dual. And he says, that unlike the stages of development that will just pretty much emerge on their own, and I think they can actually be facilitated and through practice and through work. In other words, we can move. They say that 5 years of meditation is normally good enough to move the average meditator 2 levels in these developmental stages, which is pretty fantastic. But he says, but eventually things will happen. He says, however, for these spiritual stages of waking up and understanding who and what you truly are really takes a lot of work, and it just won't happen just because it's going to happen or kind of dumb luck or whatever. It really needs to be worked on. There really needs to be practice, and it's hard and it's challenging and it takes a lot of time. So at some point, I guess in our development, we have to start hungering, for that waking up experience, or maybe we have an experience, a state experience where we get a glimpse into what this other reality is, the freedom of the witness self and the absolute connectedness and great peace and understanding that comes from the non-dual state of reality. We get taste of that, glimpses. Sometimes, we get it through drug experiences or through extreme experiences of sport or in nature, or all kinds of things, or making love, or different things can happen, but we get that hunger for that. And after a certain while, we have to say, okay, I really want this, and I'm willing to work on it. And how do I do it? Okay. And so there are a number of, there's the Sufi traditions, the Hindu tradition, the Buddhist traditions, the esoteric Christian traditions, the Kabbalah and Judaism and the other mystical traditions in Judaism. So anyway, there's and then of course the shamanistic and native cultures have their own versions of this spirituality and practices for cultivating it. So we have a lot of the ways doing it, but it's been very hard for most of us to have a normal householder existence, live in the world, and also, be a monk. It was it Wayne Teasdale, the late Wayne Teasdale was a terrific mystic and monk, and he wrote a book called Monk in the World. So to have both those things, but I think now with what we're understanding about the human brain and the new transformational tools such as iAwake that have come online and are constantly getting better, that if we take the practice and the discipline, the traditions that we've inherited from our different sources in the human family, we can really make very, very rapid progress, and progress that both includes stage development and the stages of waking up. Because as Ken has also said, if you wake up, you will also you will interpret, and this is kind of crazy. Or, hi Lucy, come here. Anyway, that's my beautiful dog Lucy, and it's been raining for like 3 days, and the sun's out now, and it's gorgeous. And she says, "Why are you talking to that box? Let's go run around and have fun outside." We will, sweetie. Anyway, so yeah, that if you do have these waking up stages, they will be contained or understood or interpreted by your current stage development. So it seems if you're going to have a really up to date growing up and waking up thing, you need to be at the highest level of your moral stage development, and also cultivate the transcendental, more spiritual, the witness self and the non-dual self through your practices. And you put both those things together, and you got something really, really interesting that it maybe fit to meet the challenges that we have, currently in our historic evolutionary journey together. And of course, I think that any evolutionary accurate path of self-realization remembering who you are and what you are essentially, and not just an intellectual way, but a completely embodied way. And actualization, becoming the best version of yourself, has to include both this developmental map, which also includes ego work. You have to do your shadow work. You have to work on your issues and your unconscious issues, and make them conscious and process and work through all that stuff, and the wounding and whatever we've inherited culturally, generationally, genetically. All of that stuff has to be processed so that we're really free. And we're not just running through these unconscious tapes and projecting our shadows and all this stuff on others or on ourselves, even much to our detriment. So it really has to be a whole-bodied waking up and growing up process. And we really we know how to do that. And also, of course, you have to include your physical body, because if you're going to do this work and become this actualized, realized human being, you know, at the highest level you're capable of, which is pretty darn high and pretty darn good, okay? Much more than most of us would suspect, okay? It's just going to take a lot of work and a lot of intelligence and a lot of discipline, and using the best technologies that we now have and the best techniques that we know, and it's ongoing daily, you know, practice where you wake up and then you grow into these levels, but you also you stay awake too. I think you can't just rely on you know, flashbang one experience. Those are good, and those are can be very could be seeds for growth, and they can be reference points on our lives. But if you don't continue to work and stabilize those realizations that come to a lot of us, some just through randomness, or maybe not randomness, but that come unbidden. We're not looking for them, but they show up in our lives, and they change us forever. But just those memories are not enough. You have to really work and to get stabilized. And when I use this metaphor a lot, but when I was a wilderness guide, we're talking about these issues or these subjects with my students. You know, we would live out in the wilderness 24/7. You know, in the summer, in the winter, in the fall, and where we were running in Utah, it would get very, very cold in the winter, so our water would freeze, the ponds and the streams and our water sources, and we'd have to break through the ice every morning to get the water, fill up our canteens and what we were carrying water in. And I said that's what a meditation practice is like. If you continue to do the ongoing, you know, daily practice, it's a process of breaking through these kind of ego structures that just kind of begin to increase. These unconscious patterns, you know, from our experiences and all this stuff, will just begin to start falling asleep again, and we'll just start kind of going unconscious and just, you know, reacting according to our conditioning. So you have to have that practice that keeps taking you into the depths and keeps breaking the ice every day, or that ice will get very thick, you know, and we'll really get lost. So I think in the Buddhist traditions, you know, they said that practice is enlightenment. One master said. So the act of continuing to practice. And there was another story where a student, I think he was from Japan, and he did all the spiritual teachers of Japan. Then he had to go to China, which was kind of the, you know, the spiritual roots of Japanese spirituality all came from China, the Buddhism and the Zen Buddhism, or Chen as they called it in China. So he found the master, and finally, and anyway, he woke up and he said, well, okay, master, we're awake now. Yes. Yeah, we're awake now. So why do we continue to meditate? You know, he says, well, but that's because that's what the enlightened do. You know, they meditate. So I don't know if we ever get to the point where we don't do that. There's just something that is so beautiful and essential. It's like breathing. If you're going to be alive, you know, you breathe. You're going to be alive. You spiritually, you continue to do the practice, to hang out there. So yeah, I hope that made sense to everybody. And if anybody has any questions or comments, this is a really good time to do it. And the reason I talk about this stuff is just to hopefully that, you know, that it's inspiring, you know, to actually hear about this stuff and know that you know, I'm not just selling a product, but I'm also on the journey with you, you know, and I have my, you know, my successes and my mistakes, and I do keep practicing. That is one thing I do have credit, I give myself credit for. I continue to do the work, and if I do miss a day, I make up for it the days that follow and put in extra time. And that has been a really, really good rule for me. And, you know, every day when, you know, I meditate, I have the encounter, you know, with the ego, you know, and today it was like, I don't know, I got up and I was doing my meditation, and part of my ego just didn't really want to meditate. I was like, okay, well, maybe I could just, you know, cut it short by 20 minutes a day or something like this. And I have learned that there's always something that the ego doesn't want to see. There's some kind of avoidant thing. So I just pay attention to that and watch that, and stay with it, and allow myself to have those feelings, and then that you know, comes and expresses itself in my thoughts and my body, and then I just keep at it. And I wrote a blog article once, and I think you can find it on iAwake. It says, meditate like a rock. You know, there's just this solid strength in your practice that no matter if it's raining or snowing or flooding or birds crapping on you or whatever, you're just a rock, and you stay there, stay that with that intention of presence. And from there, the witness self begins to come online, or begins to wake up, or begins to become conscious, you know, because as Ken said, this witnessing self is ever present, always. But in meditation and using these technologies, we start to become, consciousness becomes aware of consciousness. We become aware of the witness self. And then, of course, it begins to say, wow, there's this great, vast ocean of awareness and consciousness that I am, that is my essential self. And everything arises in that from moment to moment. And then it shifts to, oh, wow, all of that stuff that is arising is none other than consciousness. Form and emptiness, as Nagarjuna said, are nothing other than the same thing, the same essence. So anyway, that's very interesting stuff for me anyway. So any other questions, comments from anybody out there? Oh, and by the way, Pam is not doing the boards today. Louis Santos, our business guy and business guru, and is doing that today. So did you have anything, Louis, that you wanted to announce, or you'd like to comment, or anything at all?
Well, I think just one announcement, and maybe you can expand more, John, later. But we're currently in the process of beta testing a latest product called the Teachings of 1-2, and we're probably releasing that next week on Thursday. So you guys should stay tuned for that. John, do you want to tell them more about the Teachings of 1-2 tracks?
Yeah, and this is, you know, this is a first step in a direction that we may go, and we're in conversations with folks about you know, making something with virtual reality and putting a bunch of these different transformational technologies together that we become really associated with and conversant with folks that are creating all these different transformational consciousness hacking technologies, changing technologies, transforming technologies through the series of interviews that we did with Spiritual Technologies 2.0. And then we met a lot of these folks and other folks when we went to the TransTech conference in Palo Alto. Very exciting event. A lot of really amazing things going on. And so we may be taking this particular technology and adding it to other technologies. And so what it is Lee Spusta, one of our brilliant creators here at iAwake. He did Deep Delta, he did Deep Recovery, Solar Infusion, a lot of just really brilliant tracks. He's a wonderful musician. He plays all these instruments himself, and he's also a great scientist and a technician when it comes to using these different sounds and in training and using them to transform consciousness in really unique, beautiful ways. So he did this track, it's 3 parts, called the Teachings of Wan Su. And besides being a great musician and a great technical brain, thanks Teha, yeah, Lee's stuff is awesome. And he's also been working in the field of hypnotherapy for many years. So he has a real kind of cadence and a real sound in his voice that's also very inductive and very in training. And so in this story, this transformational journey, the individual, which is you or me, the first person who's experienced it, meets this teacher called Wan Su, and he is a spiritual master from China, from the past, who has the ability to kind of be here present and also coexistent in historical Chinese past, when he was able to jump time frames, if you will. And he takes us on a journey, and so you're hearing this and going on this journey, and at the same time there's this entrainment, this powerful music that is inductive into these meditational states. He takes you on a journey, and you kind of an adventure. There's just some fun stuff in there, and then there's spiritual lessons that you're required to do, things that you're required to understand. And then you have periods of sitting in quiet along with the master to contemplate the lessons that have been learned and go into these deep meditational spaces. So that's anyway, it's pretty cool, and that's what we're going to be releasing here. And hopefully, if we're able to partner with other folks, and we can bring this into another virtual reality. And anyway, some really interesting things are going on right now as far as that goes. So yeah, so stay tuned for that. And any questions or comments about anything at all, about meditation, about the technology, anything that would
John, one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is, are there any tracks that you can recommend, since the holiday season is upon us? Like, are there any tracks that you can recommend to address like holiday stress and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, so man, so many of them. One of the my whole family thing is transformed now in a lot of ways since my father died last couple of years. And anyway, the whole thing is reconsolated. But yeah, holidays can be very stressful. Okay, believe it or not. And just the outward thing, in the whole Christmas thing and Hanukkah and all this stuff, we're supposed to buy gifts for everybody, and that's stressful. And a lot of times, there's different attitudes. You can go, oh yeah, I really want to buy everybody the perfect gift. That's a very kind and sweet thing. You spend a lot of time buying gifts, and a lot of people do that, and I think that's fine. And then there's the other attitude. It's like commercialism. No, it's not about that. Blah blah. It's about this or that, and you get really angry. Then you don't buy anything because you figure you're making a moral stance, and that doesn't exactly make you happy either. So, and then you go home maybe, or you don't go home and you're by yourself. You don't go see your family. Then you feel lonely, and or you go home and oh my God, there's your family. And as Ken has quipped, and I love, he says, if you think you're enlightened, go home for the holidays, all right? Because if you have any ego buttons that can possibly be pushed, they will be pushed, over Christmas dinner. And you start talking religion and politics and all these things, as we're talking about, these different developmental levels are all represented, and they start going after each other. So that can be, can be really stressful. And what I've done over the last decade or so is one of my quips, or one of my truisms in times of extra stress: meditate more, not less. Okay. And, and I worked in the recovery world for years, and in the Bay Area, for example, during the holidays, there are 12-step meeting 24/7, because it's It's a great time to relapse. It's during the holidays, all this food and all this booze and all this stress and money and finances and families and all this good stuff comes together in a perfect storm that can be not necessarily a Kodak Christmas, right? Or Kodak holidays that we see on TV. And of course, you see those things and you're saying, oh, everybody else is having a great holiday, but I'm here with my, whacked out, neurotic, whatever family, or maybe you're having a Kodak. I've had some actually delightful Christmases. A lot of them have been in the wilderness or, have been in places where, you wouldn't think would be that great or traditional, turned out to be absolutely very holy and very cool. So the original question, yeah, there's a lot of good tracks. PMP 3.0 is always good for just about anything. It's 15 different tracks, tier 1, 2, and 3. Then you have 3 epsilon tracks, which are deeper than delta. Then you have your release tracks, which are alpha, theta, very cool tracks. I love solar infusion. Love that. Yeah, I had a solar infusion experience. I had to get up and Pam had to go with her mom to a medical clinic far, far away from here. And we had to get up very early at 4 o'clock in the morning. And, I got to the airport, did all the stuff. And then I went back and I was really tired. And I said, God, I can't meditate. I'm going to fall asleep. So I said, well, let's give myself permission to go lie down. So I put on Solar Infusion, which is a 40-minute track, a real favorite track of mine. Again, Lee Sprusta. Make sure you get that if you haven't. Very cool. And I just laid down and went into this kind of state between sleep and wakefulness for about, I don't know, well, for most of the track. I went down into it, then came out. And when I came out, I was just like totally renewed, man. I was just like feeling great, and more than just taking a nap or getting a little extra sleep. It was a really cool thing. So Solar Infusion is really good. And Deep Delta, PMP, Digital Euphoria, Audio Serenity. Anyway, so I could go on and on, but those are the ones that just came up from the top of my head. And and if you meditate 20 minutes a day, that's your practice that you have now. During the holidays, do 40 minutes a day. Okay. And if you do an hour, do an hour and 20 minutes or an hour and a half. That's what I found really worked for me. I would do an hour and a half when I was home over the holidays. And I just, everybody knew I was a little weird. So they didn't think it was weird. I'm going to go meditate. Or maybe I just go and be by myself for a while. And also one of the things I learned when you're at a family reunion or one of these things, make sure you have your own transportation. So if you live in a city where you can get on a bus or underground or get a cab or something like that, or Uber or whatever you're using, yeah. And if you're, one of the places that you don't, make sure you bring your own car, your own vehicle. So if you need a break to get away, you can do that. And a few years ago, I didn't have my own vehicle, and we were in this isolated place on the Oregon coast or someplace, and I got really mad, and I was on my little, I'm the youngest in my family, and all that stuff was coming out. I was kind of making a mess of things, and I had to go back and call everybody later and apologize, and it really helped. It kind of smoothed things out. It was really good for my soul too, just to say, hey, I blew it and I'm sorry. And I'm not, no. I'm not asking for your apology. This is about me apologizing to you. So anyway, it's all good stuff. And it's all grits for the mill. And it can be, the yoga of your family, right? And Diane Hamilton, my friend, she says, if the practice don't kill you, the Sangha will. Or in the Buddhist terms, the Sangha is the community. So if your practice doesn't kill you, your family will. So either way, you got to die and transform. So that's the process. So enjoy the holidays. And also, iAwake stuff can be really, really good gifts for others, not just for anybody. It's like you give to the wrong people, they get offended. They go, what, you think I need meditation? Well, yeah. But, when people are there, you can kind of intuitively feel, or maybe they know you're doing and they're interested in it, or they're, just going through a lot of stress and they just need a way to de-stress or get more focus. If they're students, people going to college, graduate school, and everything, boy, this stuff is really useful as a study enhancer and focus enhancer and happiness enhancer, which are all things that need to be, going pretty strongly for most of us to, to get through our studies. So anyway, does that answer any of the questions, Louis?
Yes, thank you, John.
All right. So anybody else, anything? So this stuff is recorded, and since nobody said anything, you really have to worry about it being recorded today. But if you did say something, then it would probably be recorded. And I guess if it was really awful, we could edit it. And we can do the same thing for myself. If I say anything that is overly dumb, we can just edit it, which is nice. So anyway, it's great talking to you guys, and I'll give a little more space. If there's any, you can type in questions. Oh, we get done something from Teha here. Joy and Calm from NeuroFlow are excellent too. Yes, indeed. NeuroFlow is great. In fact, I did a half hour, and then I did an hour later. And the first track that I listened to was Focus, NeuroFlow. I really like that track a lot. It's the number one. So yeah, there's an embarrassment of riches when it comes to the iAwake transformational library. Anything else? Well, okay. Well, look, man, there's so many things going on. iAwake is really growing and expanding in all over the world. A lot of really interesting things are happening. And so really feel grateful for that. And just keep going deep and doing the work and being persistent. And even if you have a day where the meditation didn't seem to be so deep, or you were struggling to stay focused or whatever, I mean, you have those kind of days, but remember, this stuff is cumulative. Okay. And even a meditation that doesn't seem like it's doing that much is 100% better than if you didn't do anything. So just keep it up. Some days you'll have good practice, just like anything. Some days you're going to be a writer. Some days you'll feel like you're doing really great writing, and other days, it doesn't, but just that you're there, you're working on, or you're playing the guitar, or you're playing tennis, or whatever you're working on, music, art, professional skills, you name it. It's just keep showing up, keep practicing every day. And if you're working on any of these other skills, if you're doing the daily iAwake meditation, I can guarantee you that you're going to get better quicker, and you're going to be more skillful and more creative and more just technically proficient and spiritually proficient and creatively proficient in whatever you're called to do in your life, if you do this iAwake stuff. And also, eat right and keep your body strong and stay vital, and you will become the person that you need to be for yourself and for all of us, and for those who came before us and those who are following us. So it's all very important stuff. So Louis, unless you have anything else, or anybody has anything, last thing, I'm going to sign off and get on with this. Okay. Thank you, Taya. God bless. Really appreciate you. And to all of you, thank you. And this stuff's going to be recorded. You can go back. The reason that we do the talks, we do the contents, we do the blogs, is because it really helps to have inspiration, hopefully, and know other people. You're not alone in this stuff. And that's why I was reading Integral Meditation this morning, and it just really, oh yeah, I know this stuff, but it helps, so fill your mind and heart with good, intelligent, useful, inspiring, healthy stuff, and you'll just feel better. Just like if you eat really good food, you're going to feel better. And if you practice and you exercise, you're going to feel better. And if you do this meditation ongoing with intelligence and discipline, you're going to grow up and you're going to wake up. And that is what we're here to do, I do believe. And you're going to be able to give your gifts. So with that, I'll let everyone go, and I will probably be reporting in again from Louisiana next week. And Pam will be back. And Louis, thanks for doing it this week. And we'll see you guys soon.